pro-social activity as well, community service, cleaning beaches, cleaning bayous, collecting food. Basically, we promote a progressive agenda in which people, which we all care for each other, in addition to just resisting some of the initiatives of the Trump regime. Structure of our group, we have some standing committees or teams, as we call them, dedicated to specific areas. We have a healthcare team that's been very active since the inception of the group. That team has visited members of Congress, has written letters, has used ResistBot to ultimately help in the defeat of the repeal and replacement of the Affordable Care Act. We also have an environment team that's been active in an ongoing way. We visited City Council many times. We're trying to resist City Council's plan to spend $100 million on an old energy power plant that we don't really need. Lafayette has no sustainability plan, no plan to include renewable resources in its energy mix. We want them to do that. That's been kind of a focus of the environmental team. But in addition to that, a lot of committees have developed along the way in kind of an ad hoc fashion as new things have come up. We've had a social justice committee working on sentencing reform, kind of decriminalizing some lower level crimes, trying to kind of resist the high level of incarceration we have in this state and develop kind of a more humane and equitable justice system. Good thing about Indivisible is that there's a lot of leeway. If you have an idea, if you have plans that you want to pursue, there's an opportunity to do it within this organization. If you have ideas, discuss them with our president and vice president. They're usually pretty amenable to ideas that you might have and will allow you to go forward with them. Let's see, what's next? How about quickly the treasurer's report, and then we'll get right on to Charles Banks.
Okay, so currently in the bank we have $189.07. And Jackie had put a fundraiser on Facebook to raise money for the Progressive Festival that we're planning on having next spring. And she was able to raise $1,296. So that will be transferred to the bank account once she gets back in town. Part of the money that we use in Indivisible is to buy bumper stickers, which we have for sale here. So we have an Indivisible bumper sticker. So it's actually our logo. And we have a couple of other bumper stickers that we have if you guys want to purchase. So the Indivisible ones are $1 each, and these two are 50 cents each. We also use the money also to fund, well, right now it's mostly for the Progressive Festival that we're going to try to put on next spring.
Okay, thank you so much. We've got a few guests slated for this meeting. I guess I've asked Marja Broussard of NAACP to say a few words, since we did talk at an NAACP meeting a few months ago. I told her to come by about 10:45, but before that, we also have Charles Banks from the Red Cross. Michael or Scott, do you want to say a few things about,
Sure. Charles trained both myself and Chrissy Green on the basics of shelter management, and so we're both planning on going back and getting some more training because he's an excellent instructor.
Okay.
But he has just a few things to say to us in a little bit.
Okay. I guess for those that are new, I think one thing that we've kind of developed as an idea is to become more ready to assist in disasters such as Harvey. This initiative kind of came out after Houston for progressives to be more ready to assist and enable others, after a disaster occurs. So we're looking to kind of train ourselves up so that we can be ready for those situations. Charles, do you want to come up and do your thing?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
All right. Okay, I'm not going to be long. My name is Charles Banks. I work for the American Red Cross. Just kind of give you a spiel of the Red Cross, how I got involved with the Red Cross. When I speak to people, I always tell people all the time, everybody has a purpose. You have to know our purpose. Know who you are. You sit here today in your organization, Indivisible or Acadiana, because you sit here, each one of you has a gift that I have something to offer. Never think you have nothing to offer, because we all do. I always tell people God created us, and we are somebody. It may not always go along with everybody, what you bring to the table. But somebody can use the tool that you bring to the table, everybody may not. So I came in the Red Cross. I am from Arkansas. I'm a hog. Don't say it. Didn't know the cost of Louisiana. Came here back when Hurricane Katrina hit. Came in, saw the storm hit on TV. Didn't know anything about hurricanes. Where I'm from, we have tornadoes. We don't have time to respond. And so I just come into the ministry as a pastor. And so that I prayed for 2 weeks and I fasted. And I said, God, I want to go to New Orleans. I don't have no money. I don't have no food. I said, I got your word. Prayed for about 2 weeks. Fasted. 2 weeks came. I got my answer. I got up and I left. Stepped out on faith, left everything. Still going to help. Saw the American Red Cross at a Catholic church. Bad News, Our Lady of Mercy. Right off of Government Street. Red Cross was there. I went in there and I said, hey, I come to volunteer. They said, you have to be part of a local chapter to volunteer. So if you're not part of a Red Cross chapter, they don't let you volunteer, or they bring you in as spontaneous volunteer. But when you're part of a chapter, you get all the tools that you need. You get the training. So I didn't have any training. So I came in with the Red Cross. There was a little old lady out of California, about 70-some years old. Little old lady. They said she's going to training. I said, this little old lady? And I looked, they said, you're going to be riding with her. Well, I'm going to be riding with Grandma. No offense. So me and her ride. She's driving me. She's teaching me the ropes of the Red Cross. She's been in Red Cross over 30 years. And she taught me the Red Cross. And as I learned the Red Cross, I came in as Red Cross as a liaison. When there's a disaster, my job was to go out and talk with local people in the community, for as pastors, Parks and Rec, and see can we use their facility for a shelter. So I go out and make an agreement and make the deal. See, can we do this? Can we use your facility? So we have to have facilities when there's a disaster for the people to go. So what I did was I went out and built partnerships. So I learned that, and the lady taught me the ropes. I'm talking about on hands. I never went to no class. Everything I taught from the Red Cross, I taught right on hand, right on the ground. Because they didn't have time to go to a lot of training because the disaster was so big. And so as I move on, the Red Cross asked me, I volunteered from September the 15th, 2005 to December 2005. So they asked me, will I be willing to stay here in the state of Louisiana, offer me a job. They offered me a job, said, well, if you stay here, we offer this to you. What do you want to go back to Arkansas? So I took on the job. I became I become the community recovery specialist. So they moved me here to Lafayette, to the Lafayette chapter, over there on Pat Street. Tony Crater, and y'all know Tony Crater. Tony Crater is the CEO of the Red Cross. He was the CEO. He's been with the Red Cross 45 years. He just retired a year ago. 45 years. It's a lot of knowledge. So that took me in under the chapter there, and I became the liaison. You remember that the evacuees was everywhere. During Katrina, then Rita come through. So my job was to issue out the money, the funding. Red Cross had funding of $20,000 that we was giving to the evacuees, those that qualified. You had to qualify for the funding to get the $20,000. So that's what I done. I did that, built partnerships, recruited over 150 volunteers in 1 year. Trained them, recruited them. That's my job was. And so I continued to do that. Then I became the director for the Red Cross here. I was director for 6 years, whole Acadiana. I covered 7 parishes. And then my job ended back in 2011, 2012. Did a national budget cut. How many of y'all know national budget cuts? This budget cuts off. Start cutting budgets, y'all. They want you to drop down, or they want to they cut your job. So they cut my job. So I left. So the Red Cross, I came back with the Red Cross March of this year. They kind of called me up and asked me, will I come back in, to kind of bring volunteers back in, build the program back up. And so today I'm here to talk to you about volunteering with the Red Cross. I always tell people all the time that always don't listen to the news. We listen to the news. News going to put out what they want. News going to put out the good things. Not always. I tell people all the time that when you come on the inside, if we stand on the outside the door, nobody knows what we're talking about. But if they open the door and walk in, you can hear and you can see what we're talking about. And so I teach people about the Red Cross. I train you. Don't want to say teach, I train you. I am a national instructor for the Red Cross. I teach all the Red Cross classes from, like Scott said, shelter. How many of y'all ever volunteered in the shelter? When all is flooded, did anybody ever come and volunteer? You volunteered in the shelter? You did? What was the experience? Honestly.
Sorry?
What was your experience volunteering in the shelter?
Well, there was so many facets and so overwhelming. And ultimately, I feel real good about it.
Okay. When there's a shelter, when there's a disaster like now, we've had so many disasters back to back. Florida, Houston. Now, Nate Cummings. And so we go and we look. When they said it's time to evacuate, we got to have a place for these people to go. So it's my job. I cover 9 parishes here in Lafayette, this Acadiana area. It's my job to work with the local government, the local pastors, and find facilities for people to go. There's no shelters. From Lafayette back to St. Mary Parish, no shelters. Everything north of I-10. Flood zone. So we will not open a shelter here in Lafayette. Everything north of I-10. But we need the people to volunteer. I tell people all the time, you know Lafayette. You know the city. You may know Broussard. So we need people to come out and volunteer. We'll train you to how to run a shelter. You can go out and volunteer all day long, but if you ain't got the accurate tools to know how to run a shelter, it will be chaos. That has to be ordered, has to be leaders. And we lead by example. And so that I teach them the method of a shelter. I give you the raw part. I call it like I said. When you're in a shelter, you're in a little city. You're in a little city. Why is that? You don't know who it is. Ask yourself, do you know everybody living in your community? Do you know folks that live down the street? Do you know folks that live on the back street? Sometimes you don't know these people. And when you're in a shelter, we don't know everybody. It's folk from all over. So I teach you the ins and outs. You sign in folks, you sign out people. Nobody just can't walk in the shelter. There are do's and don'ts. People bring their kids to the shelter, they drop them off, they leave. It's not, hey, I tell them all, it's not a daycare, I don't play the game. And so I teach you this here, how to maintain a shelter, how to work a shelter, how to deal with different things in the shelter. Another thing is the damage assessment. That's what I do. When disaster hits, I tell people all the time, how many of y'all like to be nosy? No nosy people here. Everybody ain't nosy. I like to use that. Nosy. If the police ambulance in your community, what do? Do you go outside?
Oh, yeah.
All right, then. Hey, what's going on over here? We don't have nothing over here. So, when disaster hit, say if Nate hit tonight at midnight, I will be the first one on the ground to see the devastation. I'll go out and look at the devastation. Tell people, take a damage assessment. You see right on the hand. We do damage assessment. We don't go knock on doors. We do drive-bys, not shoot. Okay, we drive by, we watch, we look at the devastation. Because guess what though? Now we got to put in distribution. So when we go out and look at the devastation, we know exactly where we need to go. So me and him is already on the ground. So what we do, we come back and we report it back to the headquarters office. Hey, this whole community been hit hard. So we're going to need distribution. We're going to need cleanup kits. We're going to need water. We're going to need food. This is what we need here. So what we do is we go back and report that. So we see all these things. So I tell people to take damage assessment, because guess what? If something happens here in Lafayette, you know Lafayette. But if a person comes out of New York, he don't know Lafayette. So if I come in and I train you and I say, hey, I need you, what's your name? I say, hey, Mr. Mark, can you go out tomorrow and do some damage assessment? Well, this man from New York, he don't know Lafayette. But if I call you, Mr. Mark, and say, hey, can you go out? You already took the train. You can leave. You already know, you know what's going on here. And so my thing is, though, that it takes $1 from the Red Cross. So when people comes in from all over the United States, Red Cross don't do a 10-day ticket. You with me? I mean, that, hey, when they call and say they need you to deploy out, hey, you got to deploy out right now. And it takes $1. It takes a donated $1. They function off a donated $1. So when these volunteers comes out, they come from all over the United States. All of them been trained. But guess what? But if I train you right here in Acadiana, well, guess what? You can go out right in there. And so we offer that. We offer so much training. There's a disaster vehicle, that big red and white vehicle, like the ambulance. People always talk about the ambulance. It's ERV, emergency response vehicle. 2 people driving. You know, it won't 2 people. What that unit does, it goes out. We distribute food. We feed. Saying that if your home got hit by a storm and you working in your community, we come through the community, we feed the community through that. We use that herb. Or we may do distribution, put cleanup kits, mop, buckets, bleach. We put that there and we go down through the community and we distribute these things out in the community. Have to be certified to drive that. You learn all the training, like all these disasters, we deploy you out. They ask you, they'll send you emails. Would you deploy out? Deploy out is 14 days. The minimum is 14 days. Give you a little stipend to go out and they fly you out, put you in a hotel, pick up a car, and you go wherever your function you work in, and so you go out to the areas where the disasters is. So that once you learn all that training, so they'll come back and ask you, do you want to go out? They would beg for folks to go to Puerto Rico. They were begging people to go. Hit hard. Some of my colleagues went out to Puerto Rico and couldn't even get there. They was on the ship and couldn't even get into Puerto Rico. They deployed out for 14 days. You on a ship here for 5-6 days, and you ain't even made it to the land yet. Hadn't made it yet. So things like that. So we always looking for people to go out and be part of the Red Cross and volunteer. So I tell people all the time, you the volunteer, you makes the Red Cross, not me. You come in and say, hey, Mr. Banks, I just want to stay 3 hours. I just want to stay an hour. Everybody might not want to go out. You may just want to come in and answer the telephone. Might not want to be out. Just answer the telephone. It's volunteering. It makes a difference with us because I don't have to answer the phone. If you come in and answer the phone, well, you can answer. You can take messages and things like that. Another thing we have is y'all remember the August flood. My job is that I am what is my title?
You wear too many hats.
My title is I work with those that's been affected by the storm.
Disaster Recovery Specialist.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Can't even remember my own title. I said so much. I'm on the recovery side, so I go out and find resources. Right now, there's families right now here in Lafayette, probably still 500 or 1,000 families. Hadn't even got back going from August flood. Can you imagine that? Because there's no funding. A lot of people live in areas that didn't have flood insurance because that's what was required. Now I can get it. I'm devastated. I'm gonna fix the income. That was make a long story short. I'm gonna be done in a minute. There was a lady that I interviewed. She was married, has 4 kids, 3 of them are little. Live right on the Vermilion. The water came, her husband left her. The house flooded. He walked out. Just walk out. What a man. You've been married this man for so long, you talking about little kids still in Pampers. The storm hit, your whole house, big old house, on the water. He walks out and leaves. You got two disasters now. Your mom has a condo, 1-bedroom condo, 4 kids, the mama and her. So I interviewed her. And I began to look, I said, man, I have to, not a shadow of a doubt. Whatever it takes, I got to help her. I got to find the funding. Red Cross has funding. And we gave her that funding. That ain't enough funding. So my job is to find other funding. So I sit at the table at the Catholic Diocese. It's called the Long-Term Recovery. Everybody that sits around the table are movers and shakers. They have money. I like folks with money. You got some money. You got some kind of resource, right? And so what we do is I take that and case managers bring the case. And so my job is to bring these people to the table to find out who has the funding to help those that have been affected by all this flood. So that's what I do. Right now that I need volunteers to do smoke alarms. Red Cross has a smoke alarm campaign. I have probably 200 homes, 250 homes that smoke alarms has to go into for those families that were affected by the flood. So guess what? I'm gonna take y'all. Okay, just hope I do it. And say that you want to volunteer, we're gonna take on a community, or we may just take on 20. Y'all just may want to say we want to do 30 homes. Okay? So smoke alarm, don't take but 10 minutes to put it in. Zoom, zoom. You don't even have to put a battery in it. Battery's already in. It's a 10-year warranty battery. One person puts the smoke alarm in. Who can draw? I bet you can draw, can't you? See, you got to draw an X, there's a little magnet go on the wall. If you draw an exit sign for them to exit out the house. One person, the same person that draw can go over the fire escape plan with the family, and it's simple. We allow 2 to 3 smoke alarms in a home. You know, you put one in the hallway. We put one back in the bedroom. Tell them all, I put one in the kitchen. You know you burn your food, so why? Who ain't never burnt their food? Who ain't never left the oven on? So that's what. And so then I really need volunteers for that. I come in. I'll let you watch a video. I can send you the link. You don't even have to come to the office. I can send you a link, and you can watch the video on YouTube. And just watch the video ain't no more than 10 minutes long. We walk in the team, and that I always tell people all the time, I never put people in harm's way. I will never make you do nothing that I won't do. If we on the ground, I'm on the ground with you. Not a shadow of a doubt. And so I tell people that all the time, just like I have a lot of preacher friends of mine, well known, and they try to offer me their building for shelters. If a shelter in the hood, I won't take it. I'm hood material. Not. You may not. You may not be. You may not be. I can go in the hood and come out the hood. But my thing is though that I want you safe. Because it's free don't mean anything to me. I want you to be safe. The same way you walk in, that's the way I want you to walk out. If you walk out at night, if you walk out in the daytime, I want your car good. Whatever it needs to be, I want you safe. All free stuff ain't good. And I just don't take it. Because guess what? I won't do it. I can do it. It's not about me. It's about you. And so we go out and smoke alarms. We make sure that everyone is safe in safe location, and we have everything that we need. So I have that going on right now. I've been off of work for about 3 weeks. I had back surgery 3 weeks ago. Yeah, got 2 rods and 4 screws, so that you're probably not thinking. So Scott asked me, well, I come today. I've been off work for about 3 weeks now, so I hope to go back in the next week or so. So that's the one to come out today and kind of share that with you. So anyone have any questions about the Red Cross, you feel free to ask me. But like I said, we need volunteers. And or remember that you're the volunteer, I will come to you, do the training. You don't have to come to me, I'll come to you. Give you all the training you need. You can do training online also at redcross.org. You can go there and do the training. We do all background checks on everybody also. And so that make sure that everybody's secure, before we put people in and volunteer for the Red Cross. Okay? Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
What's your contact information?
Okay. We have a call right there.
Oh, is it? Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? You have a question? Yes, sir. All right. Anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me give you an opportunity to address this, because you've probably seen it before. We're real big on social media with our organization, and so you see these things a lot on social media. And on social media, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. It's hard to tell if it's not just the Russians trying to sow division between us, right?
Sure.
But I've seen these things on social media where some guy will say, "Man, don't give money to the Red Cross." Okay, the Red Cross, we were volunteering, and the Red Cross came in and they sent us all away, and they threw away all the food we had and threw away all the clothes we had collected. So don't give money to the Red Cross. I'm sure you've read those kind of things. Where's that coming from?
All right. First of all, Red Cross don't take clothes. We don't take clothes. That ain't what we do. Kill that already. People think we take clothes. We don't do clothes. That's why we have relationships with Goodwill, Salvation Army. So if you bring us clothes, we just tell you take it to them. Food. The food wise, he may come and say, Mr. Mark may come and say, "Hey, my restaurant cooked some food. We want to give it to the Red Cross. We can't take it because of the health." So the Southern Baptist churches, Southern Baptists are our partners. Southern Baptists come in and cook the food. They cook the food for us. Because if he cooks the food and someone gets sick, who they go blame?
Red Cross.
The Red Cross. They go point at us, regardless. Regardless if it can't his company name on it, they still go say who? The Red Cross. So the food that we have, we gives it back to the homeless shelters. Well, if ain't no homeless shelters around, what can we do? And nothing else we can do but dispose of it. We can't continue, because once the temperature goes down on it, it's no good.
Yeah.
Everything is on temperature. Okay? Red Cross will not take you out here and just throw you away. I read some stuff the other day out of Houston, It kind of disturbed me. I've been in Houston. I went to Houston last week, a couple of days. But, people concept is that they want us, this is, the system has changed. People don't give like they used to give anymore. But there's resources there. But a lot of people want the Red Cross to do everything. But people have to step in and help themselves also. We're here to do what we're supposed to do. But a lot of people just feel that, they still stuck on this Katrina thing. It hurt us. Because who ever had a Katrina? We never had a Katrina. It was a learning for everybody. And people still think that. So that, that's why I tell people all the time, you come on the inside, you kind of see, but a lot of people put that on Facebook. Everybody has their own opinion, but we don't do clothing. We do the feeding and things like that, but we don't do clothing. Okay? So I hope that helped you.
Can I ask a question? Can he become a partner?
Can he become a partner? You own a restaurant?
Well,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Good question. Good question. Say if we don't kick in to 72 hours. Okay? Say you got a restaurant. You can become a partner. Sign off. We'll do an agreement, contract. And you may say, "Hey, I want, I think $6, $7 a plate." It is $6, $6.50. You got, and my question going to be to you is, can you serve 500 meals for breakfast? Can you do 500 meals for lunch? Can you do 500 meals for dinner?
and for me, it's not so much about those numbers. I think anybody that has a contract with you knows they have to fulfill a requirement of everyone that's in your shelter, right?
Yeah.
They can't just come and serve a portion of the people that are in your shelter. But I just want to, when we relay information to social media, I want to make sure that we have it right. And a lot of the times I know he's not going to be able to come at the beginning of a catastrophe and say, hey, all of a sudden I want to partner up with you. Right now, right now is a bad example because Nate's coming, but let's say in April, before hurricane season starts, you have a big restaurant, one that's got the ability to take on 500 for 3 meals. They want to partner with you. So if we get that information out there and say, hey, if you've got the capabilities, or even maybe in a coalition of restaurants, being able to, I think we have restaurants in this community that would do that. Absolutely, that would form a coalition to be able to come and partner with y'all. In fact, speaking as a chef's wife, I know that we do. I know that, but I want to get that information out there that says, because I know the food with the Red Cross rumors, that's a big thing, you know, turning away the food. But I understand it from a safety standpoint.
Sure.
I understand why they turn away the food, but you can't get people to understand that. What people don't understand on the front line is what Red Cross does when they come in and they set up the initial shelter and they get people situated. What would we do in a disaster if Red Cross wasn't there? Who's negotiating shelter contracts? Nobody. So good luck if there's a disaster without the Red Cross. That's what I'm saying.
All right, let me share this with you. Hold on for a minute. If it's a community shelter, you can do what you want to do.
Sure.
It's a community shelter. Community shelter means that this community opened it up. You can bring in anything that you want because it's a community shelter. But once the community shelter turns it over to the Red Cross, everything goes to the Red Cross rules. Piccadilly restaurants. We call Piccadilly, they got the meal. We have restaurants already on board that can come out and do the feeding if we need them. You know, because that Southern Baptist has made it yet. So they may call Piccadilly, they may call another restaurant because that is a Red Cross shelter. So that when I said about numbers, what I meant about numbers was that if it's a Red Cross shelter, and I called him up, and he has a contract in, he has to meet those numbers. That's what I meant by numbers. But if it's a community shelter, everybody in this room can fix food and just bring it to them.
Right.
Okay, so that we look at that. So a lot of people don't understand that. So you have to put that in perspective. Once it turns over to the Red Cross, everything changes, and people get upset. But it changes because we have to stick with the rules. You got people in there diabetic. You know, you get people get sick, so we want to make sure of that. Okay? All right, so, yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think we have to go on with the next step.
All right, thank y'all so much.
All right, guys, so you guys have got the contact information. If you have any questions for Charlotte Banks, you can send him an email or give him a phone call. Of course, I'll put that information in the minutes as well.
So will we be setting up something to do the smoke alarm stuff?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Marge, if you want to come up and talk. Next speaker, we've got our next guest is Marja Broussard, president of the local NAACP chapter, with whom we've been working a little bit with lately.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank Matt here for inviting me to be a part of this and to come here and speak to you about the NAACP. I am the president of the local chapter, and we're pretty involved in the community. The mission of the NAACP. The mission of the NAACP is to ensure political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons, and to eliminate race-based discrimination. Been in existence since 1909, and been in Louisiana since 1942. So we just celebrated 75 years in Louisiana last month. So we're excited about that. At the local level, some of the things that we're working on, of course, is education. We started a campaign in 2014. We and I apologize, I'm trying to shift from meeting to meeting, I'm just coming back. We've worked with, we requested police reform in Lafayette Police Department because of what we believe was discriminating hiring practices, discriminating promotion. We were against Lafayette Police Department investigating their own shoots, things of that nature. We have been able to accomplish the one thing that a lot of the community was concerned about, and that was Lafayette Police Department investigating their own shoots. So now they have an outside entity, which is the state police, which I don't know how great that is, but we'll see. We'll see. But if I give you a ticket and you decide, well, I'm just going to take care of it in the courtroom, and you get to court and I'm the judge, it just didn't seem right to us. So it was a great accomplishment too, because for many, many years and years, Lafayette Lafayette Police Department had investigated their own police shoot. We have submitted a resolution to our governor's office about police brutality, about making public investigations and whatnot, or at least to keep the public informed on where investigations were, especially police-related shootings. Kwame Mason, 23-year-old, was shot and killed by Lafayette police. Everybody knows the story about Elton Sterling. We don't know where that is. And the list, Tevin, this young man running away from the police officer, he was shot. We're not saying anybody is right or wrong. We just need to know what's going on with it. And if we don't have the information, then how can we stay? Another thing that we work on is education. Locally, we have Brother Takuna Al-Shabazz, who works with, you would be amazed how many children are expelled from school for little or nothing. One in particular instance, 12-year-old boy, great student, A student, his friend told him, close your eyes and open your hands. And he did. And his friend is ADHD, and he's taking ADHD medication. And his friend was older than him, I think 13. But nonetheless, and the young man did. He closed his eyes, opened his hands, and his friend put pills in his hand. And the little boy said, man, I don't want that. And he tried to give it back, and the little boy didn't take it. So he threw it out the window of the bus. This is like the third week in school, A student, football team, teachers all wrote recommendations, please don't suspend him, African-American student, and he was expelled for the whole year. Can you imagine that? Now the boy who gave him the medication is covered by this Title V, or any teachers in here? He's covered by a title.
My son was under the same title.
Exactly, so he doesn't get the same punishment, yet, if anybody here said, Marja, close your eyes and open your hands, 9 out of 10 I'm gonna do it, especially if it's for a friend. We did get the young man back in school. It took many, many meetings with the school board and the superintendent, but that's the kind of things that we work on at the local level. We did do a statewide march to the Capitol on last Saturday. A few people here were mad, and we had support from this group, and we appreciate that. So we're excited. We're doing some reorganization because we've got a lot of new members, so we're going to activate a lot more of our committees. We have a lot of committees that are unmanned. It's been a very small organization for a very long time, but we're excited because we have new members and we're ready to move forward. Any questions?
Any questions? When do you have regular scheduled meetings?
Yes, our meetings right now are members only. We hope to open to the public by January. It's $30 a year to join. They're held the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. I work very, 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 did I say very, very hard? Very hard to keep the meetings at an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. I want to be sensitive to people's time, and I think it encourages people to attend. Sometimes we have a little long meetings, and I just can't sit. That wouldn't be very nice. But that's the last few years, it has been right at an hour and 15 minutes. We had a long one recently, and And I hope that's not a deterrent.
Or the night before.
Night before, I just hope it's not a deterrent. Anyone else? Okay, well guys, thank you for having me. Is there anything I can do? We are working in collaboration with Indivisible, Lady Downs.
Lady Dan.
And actually, any organization that wants to present what they do to our organization is definitely open, because we are looking to collaborate with others in the city, and even at state level, and even at national level, so that we can really, make some significant changes in our country.
And there are meetings, like, first Thursday of every month, at the meeting, usually there's a slot for a speaker, so it's a good opportunity for people involved with other organizations to come and present. And then, of course, if you want to participate in an ongoing fashion, you can simply join the organization.
Thanks again for having me.
Ms. Marja, would you mind putting your contact information on the board?
Sure. Do you want my personal contact?
Maybe an email address, if you have an email address to get in touch with.
We just got an email address and I haven't memorized it yet. But I'll give you the NAACP line. It's a voicemail.
Okay.
We always get a voicemail, but we work very hard to return calls within 48 hours. And I don't see like I have anybody I just don't like here, so I'm going to put my personal
One of the things we would be grateful and think is an important step for all of us is if we could have your organization collaborate with us on canvassing the neighborhoods, getting out, knocking doors, encouraging people to vote,
And to register.
and finding out where people's concerns are. So the more boots we have on the ground, literally, the more territory we can cover.
Absolutely, and Matt has brought that to our attention. We do any event that we're allowed to do a voter registration drive. We do any election that's coming up. We try to get that information out, but at events, it's not like we have the manpower to go door to door, but we're definitely working on that since Matt came and presented. Was it you that presented that? Yes.
Yeah.
The precinct 19, right?
Yes.
Yes. So we're definitely going to work on that. And we also have a push to get younger people involved.
Us too.
Yeah. So we're working on that, and we're going to also collaborate with the UL branch, to get the young people out. So that would be a good idea to present that information to them too. The canvassing, those people are young. I went to the march, and I tell you, it was like 15 miles long. It was actually about 1.5 miles. And it was the heat was brutal. It took me at least 3 days to recover, and I'm still recovering. I've had surgery on my leg, and it's just the physical thing. I want to call it. I don't want to insult anyone by saying old folky. So this old folky can't do it anymore. I probably can do about 1.5 miles a month to be safe, But definitely we have a push to get. Let me just tell you a couple of things too that I forgot. NAACP has a seat on the Police Community Relations Board that was started probably from us kind of pushing for that because we feel that the community needs some input. But there's a board of about maybe 20 other organizations. I don't know if Indivisible is on that board. It's a committee actually, not a board. But I'm sure you can approach the chief of police or the deputy chief. They're very receptive to, having a diverse group of people sit and talk the first Monday of each month. We also have a person that sits on the SMILE board. I can't say much about that just yet because there's a lot of changes going on. I think that's the significant. Yes, ma'am.
I know we all are involved in several different groups, and so without actually joining another meeting, would there be a way to stay abreast of your group's activities in a way that, without attending a monthly meeting, but just knowing what's going on so that when you need people to show up, say, for a particular cause, we can support that from afar?
Absolutely. We have a Facebook page. It's Lafayette. It's NAACP Lafayette Unit 6060, I believe. But Matt is a member. Miss Mary Pritchard is a member.
Yeah, Mary Pritchard.
And
Kirk is also.
And there you are. I'm sorry, I didn't see him. He's a member. And so when they come to the meetings, but we're trying to. And Fred too. Good strong group over here. But we put a lot on our Facebook page that you can check every once in a while, or just follow with the notification, and when we put something, then you can go check it out.
What was that?
I hate to give out inaccurate information, so I'm going to check.
We'll get it, and we can put it on our Facebook
Yeah.
page. To a link to your Facebook page.
Look, I'll write it up.
I just want, there's 2 pages out there, and I just want to make sure that you get ours. It is NAACP Lafayette. That's it.
I'll write it up for everyone.
And if you have anything going on, it's just a matter of calling and leaving a message. Probably not to me, to the number, because someone else mans that line. And we're coming out there, we're supporting. There's been a lot of talk about the NFL and the protests and whatnot. We're thinking about submitting a plan to the national, because anything that we do, we have to submit a plan to national. They have to respond in 15 days. A lot of people have been calling us about boycotting and whatnot. We don't have the authority to take that type of action, but we can support any action if the group members, if the members of the organization, if the members of the organization vote and say, hey.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I overheard of an incident recently. A black lady at the health club was telling someone else that her son was accosted at a football game and called the N-word and told, go back where you came from. And I was wondering, is there anything that NAACP could do to intervene in this situation? I don't know if it's going to go before the school board or whatever. I believe the fighting suit.
You would have to know all of the details. I can tell you that you would not, if you guys were privy to the type of calls that we get, you would be amazed, really. We get calls, teacher called my kid the N-word. It has to be something verifiable. We have to have the information. When you file a complaint into the NAACP, you have to give a narrative of exactly what happened. You have to name places, you have to name people, and you have to name times that we can go back and check. And I will tell you that we don't have the manpower to help the person who's been in jail for 25 years for a crime he didn't commit. But we get those. You know, we don't have the manpower to do a lot of things because we don't have attorneys that we can say, okay, this attorney takes care of that attorney, that's not how we work. And a lot of people call us and they think that we could just get an attorney for them and that's not what we do. We're basically, each complaint is viewed differently. It's taken to the board and the board decides together what's within our Constitution and bylaws, how we can help, if at all. But lawyers, we do have attorneys in our organization, but we don't give attorneys to anyone. We just don't represent people legally.
I was just thinking more in the terms, supportive or maybe advice to the lawyer or something like that.
I'm kind of a radical person. So I try hard not to give my personal advice. Maybe I could do with the mama. But there's a cool world out there. It really is. And if you ever get the opportunity to walk in my shoes for 24 to 48 hours, you'd be amazed. You really would. You really would. You'd be, wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, I think that would be surprised you.
You know, maybe not surprised, but I guarantee you amazed. Being black in South Louisiana, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year is sometimes a challenge. So it's often a challenge. It really is. It really is.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Fred Prejean's got an announcement or two he'd like to make.
I'd like to do several things, inform you of something, and congratulate you on something, and invite you to something. My name is Fred Prejean. I represent an organization called Move the Mindset. Move the Mindset is an individual organization. However, it is comprised of the collaboration of other organizations who have their specific goals that they pursue as an organization, as well as being part of collaboration with Move the Mindset. Move the Mindset is the face of the organization that you've probably been hearing of in the media. The organization is working to move the Jim Crow statue, which is downtown. It's a statue of Alfred Mouton, but we refer to it as a Jim Crow statue because that is what that statue represents, Jim Crow. The collaboration that makes up the body of Move the Mindset, and I got to distinguish between the face and the body, because the face of the organization is one thing, it's the body that does the work and make us successful. The body is comprised of 5 organizations. Kirk is president of one of the Blue Democrats of Acadiana, Lady Democrats of Acadiana, Indivisible of Acadiana, Lady Dems of Acadiana, Move the Mindset, and I'm leaving out one. Which one am I leaving out? NAACP. Those are the 6 organizations that make up the body of Move the Mindset. Just recently, the League of Women Voters announced winners of their annual awards night program. Just to give you an idea of who those winners are, but before I do that, let me just give you a short idea of the League of Women Voters. I'm sure you probably know of them and have heard of them. The League is nonpartisan and does not support or oppose candidates. The League of Women Voters works on the national, state, and local levels to educate people on important government issues, build safe and harmonious communities, advocate for positive change on issues that affect all, such as land use, public education, accountability, and transparency. They are a non-profit organization. They have recently nominated, well, not nominated, but have selected the following people for awards in specific categories. And I just lost my page. Give me 1 second, if you will. we have awarded Acadiana, Louisiana Prison Reform, the name of the group, and the award is Safeguarding Democracy Award. Rhonda King Gleason, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and the award is Mobilizing Action for Dr. Don Aguilar, Lafayette Public School System Superintendent, Improving Quality of Education Award. Fred Prejean, Move the Mindset, Increasing Community Dialogue Award. Debbie and Hank Perret Miles, Perret Cancer Services, Lifetime of Difference Award. I think they made a mistake, I know they made a mistake in granting me personally an award for increasing community dialogue. And that's why I stress the point that while our organization is the face of the movement to move the statute, the body is what is important, and that body is all of those groups. And it's all of those groups that should be receiving this award. I'm here this morning to ask you to consider, and many of you and many of the people who belong to the various organizations of our collaboration attended a press conference and rally about a month ago. And we certainly thank those of you here today who were present on that occasion. Because of that activity, we have made a very significant impact on this community. The Catholic Bishop Desautels, Bishop of the Diocese of Lafayette, along with the Black Pastoral Alliance of Lafayette, together were impressed with the actions of our collaboration of Move the Mindset. They met and decided that the recent activities showing hatred by white supremacists, neo-Nazis, the KKK, that kind of hatred has to stop. And so they decided that they were moved by not only our organization's performance and turnout and desire to cause this type of hate to stop as well. The Bishop Desautels decided that he was going to write a letter to each parish within 7 state parishes. He was going to write to church parish in each of the 7 state parishes that he oversees as bishop. 330,000 Catholics heard or are going to hear a letter from him denouncing hatred from these types of groups. The Black Pastoral Alliance is right now planning a press conference for sometime in November to denounce hatred and cruelty of these white supremacist kinds of groups who do nothing but cause division in our city, in our parish, and in our country. There are people that say moving the statue, you're messing with our heritage, this is part of our history. Let me tell you, these people do not understand the meaning of the statute. The statute represents Jim Crow. And if you don't know what Jim Crow is, it is a philosophy to turn society back in time to a period prior to the Civil War where slavery was legal. There were 2 periods in history when Jim Crow made history. The Civil War ended in 1865. From 65 until 1877, federal troops were in the South reconstituting government as a result of the dismantling of government which took place during the Civil War. In 1877, there was a Republican, Abraham Lincoln type Republican, Rutherford B. Hayes was his name. He was in the running for presidency of the United States with a Democrat. And there was some conflict about who had actually won the election. The controversy was over electoral votes. So Rutherford B. Hayes decided he was going to come to the South and try to get the electoral votes of the Southern Democrats. And so they cut a deal. The deal was the Southern Democrats would toss their electoral votes to Rutherford B. Hayes if Rutherford B. Hayes would remove the federal troops from the South. Hayes agreed, and he won the election. And he withdrew the federal troops from the South, who were placed in the South to make certain that African Americans, former slaves, were treated like Americans under the Constitution of our country and enjoyed the rights and freedom and equality that all Americans deserve. That's why the federal troops were here. When they were withdrawn, the white supremacists who had prevailed prior to the Civil War caused all kinds of conflicts. Voting was one of the privileges that blacks had after the Civil War. The white supremacists caused all kinds of conflicts. They burned black people's houses. They hanged black people for being black. They caused the separation of families. If you walked into town from 1877 until, I forget the period, if you were a black person and you walked into a town, the law enforcement would ask you if you have a job and who you work for. And if you responded, I don't have a job, I'm here in town searching for a job, you were arrested and charged with being a vagrant. And there was a bond posted, and you had to meet the bond in order to get out of jail. Well, people were in town to fight because they didn't have any money. So the sheriff would lease prisoners out to large plantation owners and large companies and farmers who would pay the black person a minimum amount of money that he could use and accumulate to be able to pay his bond. And at that time, he would be released from the obligation of having to work for the individual. After he paid his bond, he had to go to court because he got charged. He was found guilty of being vagrant. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that went on following 1877 that people who created Jim Crow instituted. That was the first part of the history of Jim Crowism. Jim Crowism raised its ugly face again during the 1960s when there was a tremendous struggle by black people for civil rights, to acquire their civil rights. The civil rights legislation of 1964 took place in 1964, Civil Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act took place in 1965. This angered white supremacists, and once again, there was a lot of violence committed against black people. The Daughters of the Confederacy in 1922 placed the statue, the Jim Crow statue, downtown to memorialize the philosophy of Jim Crow. That statue was not placed there to honor Alfred Mouton. It was part of a movement throughout the South by the Daughters of the Confederacy. So people say, this statue is part of our heritage. You know, this is part of our history. Well, sure enough, that may be the truth. But it is not the kind of thing that belongs in the center of downtown for people to come and honor and praise. It is part of their people's history and its heritage, but it belongs where history and heritage belongs, in a museum. Our organization is not in favor of destroying the statue. We do not want it to go away. We want it to be contextualized. Put it in its proper context. Put it in a museum where people can teach what that statue is, what the purpose of it was, you know, who was responsible for placing it here in the Lafayette area. And so that's what moved the mindset, and our collaboration is all about. That statue is in the front of the Lafayette Office of International Affairs. That building, that old courthouse, is the Office of International Affairs. People from around the world come to Lafayette looking to do business or visit or whatever, and they see that statue and they ask, what is the meaning of this Confederate soldier? You know, why is this here? They don't understand, and I don't blame them. And it implies that this represents our people. Well, it don't represent our people. And so I'm asking that you come to the League of Women Voters annual affair, which is on November the 19th at the Doubletree Hotel, Doubletree by Hilton, I think it's called. It's the hotel at the Pinhook Bridge. And it is it's in the afternoon from 3, I think it's from 3 to 5 o'clock. The League of Women Voters do a lot of good work, and they are a poor organization. They are sponsoring this awards ceremony and selling tickets. The tickets are $35, and be assured that the money will be well spent in representing our city. Come and celebrate the good that you have done. As members of Indivisible, you have made a contribution to the receipt of this award that don't belong to me. You know, I'm just a I'm the elected chairman, but I'm just a cheerleader. It's the body that's important. So this award belongs as much to you, if not more, than me. So come and celebrate the good that you have done.
Is there a deadline?
The deadline is the 28th of this month. And I'd like to leave, my wife is one of the members and has tickets to sell along. A lot of you know Sally Donlin. Sally is a member. Sally has tickets as well. My wife's name is Ola, O-L-A, Prejean, 237-5010.
I don't think he realizes. It looks like you have old B up there. How about Ola?
O-L-A.
O-L-A.
She will come to deliver the tickets to your house if you want her to. Or she'll meet you at a coffee shop or however you want to acquire the tickets. She will accommodate you. So please do come and represent this organization as part owners of this award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. All right, last thing I want to do is just go around real quick. It says like committee reports and what we usually do. But I'm just going to kind of like try start with one call people who I know or think might have something to say for 30 seconds or so each. Amy.
30 seconds, thanks for that.
Or more.
Okay, I'm not going to get into it in depth right now. Scott's not here today, but our next big initiative is going to be tax reform. Everybody loves taxes. I'm going to ask everybody, if you have Facebook, to follow my firm's Facebook page. And it's a big, long, Coastal Lake Netterville. We have a webinar coming up Tuesday, and if you go follow Coastal Lake Netterville on Facebook, you'll see, I think, not our last post, but our post before this was a free webinar that you can register for on Tuesday. It's probably the middle of the day, but hopefully you can kind of center it around your lunch break. I know Jackie registered for it, and it will give you the tip of the iceberg on what the Trump tax reform will probably bring to the table, which everything is going to pretty much point to, while there might be a few good things in it for the lower and middle class, we are looking for it to be a definite break on the upper class, which I hate to tell everybody, no matter what you think, you are probably not in the top 1%, and you probably don't know anybody there either. Also, as far as what the experts are saying, and I'm not going to really get into a lot of deep tax talk with you, but bringing the corporate tax rates down is going to cause a bigger deficit. It just is. There's no way to cut the corporate tax rates and pay for everything that we pay for. So I encourage you, and I'll have more information coming. I'm gonna get some handouts probably for the next meeting, and I'll also be probably inundating the feed with some tax information. But I'll try to keep it concise. I don't want to say dumb it down, but I'll try to put it in terms that y'all can understand, because we get a lot of terms that I don't understand, then I have to ask somebody, what the hell does this mean? So I'll try to put it in stuff that y'all can understand, and that'll be our next, really getting the word to our members of Congress that, hey, we don't agree with passing any kind of tax reform that's going to benefit the 1%, or any kind of tax reform that is going to give really big tax breaks to corporations that is going to increase our deficit, and then B, encourage trickle-down economics, because we all know how well that has worked. So that's what they're going to tell you, is that when you give these big tax breaks to corporate entities, that, well, then what's going to happen is they're going to turn around and build more facilities, and then they're going to hire more people. But no, they're not, because we all know that greedy corporate people are just going to make their what is it, those things that they get when we don't, bonuses bigger. That's what's going to happen. All right, that's all I had. Oh, and if anybody wants to sign the petition, I have it with me.
Rubia.
Yeah.
Thanks,
because I have
Yeah, so taxes will be our next, after healthcare, it's going to be our next big kind of resistance centerpiece for a while.
And the security with COVID. Okay, so one of the two things. One is LAPOP, which is the precinct organizing project that a lot of people have been involved in. And we kind of took a break over the summer because of the heat. And like Ms. Marja said, it's just brutal hot out there to go out and knock doors. But we're gearing up for the upcoming months. And so there are a number of us who have had the training. And what it involves is going out, knocking doors of Democrats, introducing yourself. We're finding out encouraging people to vote. Like if they did get out and vote last time, what stopped them? Asking people what their concerns are. And I have to say that for the most part, we have had very positive response across the board. So I'm a member of the healthcare committee that Jean Menard heads. And one of the things we were considering is how can we have an impact coming up November, because we all know, of course, that they shortened the marketplace enrollment for healthcare to 6 weeks. And then, of course, all the deal with not funding the navigators, and then the website being shut down for maintenance during that time. And so we thought that we could take both of these ideas, and when we hit the streets, boots on the ground, we can ask about getting people enrolled for healthcare as well. I spoke with and then had a follow-up email from Brian Burton. He is the State Director for Navigators for Louisiana. He couldn't be here today. He'll be here at the November 4th meeting to speak to us. And he's very excited to have our participation. So I'm just going to kind of give you a couple of things that he mentioned just in case we're out on the streets before November 4th. So Louisiana had 20 navigators last year. We now have 5, and they are concentrated across the I-10 corridor. Lake Charles and Lafayette share one. There's Alexandria, Opelousas, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. North of Alexandria, there are no navigators. The coastal parishes, there are no navigators. East of Denham Springs, there are no navigators. So us being involved will be a huge boost to them and to our community. They are going to print out brochures for us. Yeah.
Yes, I know there's a lot of navigators.
Okay, we will get together on that. But they're going to supply us with the brochures. So we had talked about the cost of how we're going to print this out, what needs to go in the brochures. He's going to supply them. I hope to pick them up next week. I asked initially for 200. When we hit a neighborhood, we usually knock 100 doors. And then the Precinct 19 gathering on the 22nd, we wanted to have some for that. They do have a couple of asks for us in order to be more efficient. So what they would like us to do is when we introduce ourselves and we talk to families, is to ask, of course, is everyone in your household covered by health insurance? If they're not, then they would like us to do a quick poverty level triage, because often people don't know what category they fall into. Are they eligible for actual Medicaid or Medicaid expansion, or do they fall into the marketplace? So one of the brochures is just going to be a really simple breakdown of income and household members. If they're eligible for Medicaid, we can say, you can sign up for that at any time and give them the brochure for that. If they are not and they fall into the marketplace, the next ask is to do a triage of their ability to negotiate the website. And he said the simplest question to ask there is, do you have an email address? If they don't have an email address, they are unlikely to be able to deal with that. And so to provide them with a phone number for the navigator. Now, the navigators are going to be overwhelmed with phone calls over these 6 weeks. So us getting out there and actually being able to triage some of that will cut down on some. If they do have an email address, to provide them with, if you have any questions, this is the number that you can call for the navigator. So if we're all in agreement to proceed with this, as part of our precinct canvassing, I think we can have a really huge impact. And the more people we have on board, the better. And just so you know, it's really great fun getting out and talking to people, and then afterwards we always get together and have a meal and maybe a beer or a glass of wine or so. So we hope to see you there.
Thank you so much. Ruby, a navigator is someone who helps you go through the website, right?
Right, exactly.
They help you navigate the website, sort of loading in the ECA, which can be Jean, and
Okay, so the truth is, we defeated the healthcare bill, but they are trying to make the tax reform about healthcare. So this is not over, and they just removed access or required access to contraception for women. Now, because of moral or religious values, employers are no longer required to cover contraception, which is insane because they obviously don't want to provide health care or any kind of social programs. So I don't know what they plan on doing with extra people to not take care of. We have decided to move our healthcare team meetings to a regular
regular monthly meeting on the second Monday of the month. Unfortunately, the large meeting room was not available, so it's only a 10-person area now. But the next team meeting will be Monday, October 9th at 5:30. I'll stick to 1 hour, 5:30 to 6:30, Monday, October 9th at the main library. Then the following November meeting will be on the 13th, also main library, also 5:30, second Monday of the month. I'll write those dates and times there. If anyone has any ideas, suggestions on how we can get the information out there to help get people registered other than this boots on the ground door to door, which I think is going to be fantastic, we are more than willing to listen. We will definitely try social media, Twitter. We'll try to notify everyone we can beginning November 1st to get people to sign up. But obviously, they're doing all they can to wreak havoc on the ACA. Yes, ma'am?
All of the libraries have computers. I don't know the people that don't have an email list, you can get an email. I mean, they might need people to help them. I don't know if they do work or something out. They also, when they have, they tutor, I think they have laptops. Now, I don't know if the library would let us use the laptops and do something like a workshop. I have no idea. But it's just tossing it out.
I would like to do that. Do you know who I should speak to get a workshop set up for the early November time frame?
I think you just message the same person that you message for the meeting rooms, because if you want to use, are you talking about the room with the laptops in it?
I kind of had more of an idea of them putting on something, because that way they would be able to advertise it on the library website. You know how they do community programs?
I would still try to say
a community program. This has nothing
at the
to do
main
with
one. I would try
Alton.
Alton. Alton's the one that's going to answer your question one way or another.
Okay.
They may feel like it's a little too political. They might.
But that's really a community
It's not.
service.
It's not.
They used to do taxes. I mean, they would have like a room with like accountants, the retired accountants would come
Right.
and do that.
Try Alton. Alton's the person that is going to be able to answer your
Yours
question.
is small, like Chenier, they have to do like tax stuff, but they have more computers than they used to. They used to just have like 8 desktops, but now they got like 10 or 12.
Well, don't they have Wi-Fi? Can't each one of us bring a laptop?
Yeah.
And just, if we have a meeting room with tables, just get one of the rooms with the tables. We can each, I've got 2 laptops I can bring.
I think several of us would be willing to help out, but if the library sponsors it, the library will be able to get the word out better, I think,
Right.
than we will.
Start with Alton. If he says
Yeah.
no, then we default to us.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't really know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kurt, anything?
Just remind everybody about the meeting, the Blue Acadiana meeting in this same room at 1 o'clock today. Just an hour and a half.
Meet the candidates.
Yeah, we've got several candidates for office that are coming.
Candidates for office.
Right.
Some really crappy lemon squares that I made. They're not that bad, but the recipe said to make it good, like no substitution. It's all substitutes. Like half the butter is applesauce. That's just, the white sugar is brown sugar, whatever. But they're okay. They're not like great. Anybody else?
I have one last thing. We have a website called IndivisiBleAcadiana.com. So we just recently put a donation button on it. So if you want to donate to Indivisible Acadiana, you can scroll to the bottom of the page. If not, you can go to menu and there's a donate option on there. If you don't want to write down the website, we actually have business cards in the back close to the sign-in sheet. You can grab one of our business cards. It has our Twitter account, Facebook account, email address, and our webpage on there.
Okay, Scott, home fire, like the meeting at 1 o'clock on the 13th. Home fire.
Okay.
2 sentences for everybody.
I already gave you some. Okay. What was the question?
I want you to say a couple of sentences about home fires and mention the meeting on Friday the 13th and what we're doing and why.
Okay,
And then I'll say one or two things that I've got and then.
yes, the home fire campaign is, as Charles Banks mentioned earlier, is something that we are interested in being involved in as a group. So I'm meeting with one of the representatives next Friday at 10 a.m. No, at 1 p.m. I have 2 meetings that day. It's unusual for me. But 1 p.m. we're going to get together a couple people from Indivisible, Acadiana, and we are going to discuss the more details about how we can implement this. But as Charles mentioned, roughly we go in and we talk to the people and we find out do they have smoke alarms. If not, these are available, and do the training and install them. And so this is good PR for the organization, and it's a good experience for everyone too. So I think that's it.
All right. October the 13th, Red Cross office on East home fires, getting smoke alarms at the houses, I'm especially interested, of course, because I'm canvassing the north side. And, we see houses, I've seen a house burn down right next to mine. So obviously, I want, in the rental houses, they're shotgun shacks, a lot of them, I want the people that smoke alarm.
So it is, so I wasn't sure when Charles was speaking if that was only for people affected by the flood, or if this is just across the board.
This is we can combine with LAPOP. My idea is to combine with LAPOP. We go around, we ask people, do you have a smoke alarm? Yes or no?
We're going to need multiple clipboards.
I am. A lot of questions. Do you have a smoke alarm? Can you roll up? Do you have an email? Well, we're just trying to help you do a lot of things.
Yeah, it is. It's true. It's a one hit. Yeah.
So, in fact, I'm going to probably go to every house, in my precinct, Democrat or not, and ask them if they have a smoke alarm, and if they don't, then someone brings them a smoke alarm.
I have a question, so that's a meeting to talk about that, and then you schedule dates and times to do that, or? Do I understand that correctly?
What's the question?
So that meeting, you're going to discuss, you're going to come up with dates and times?
Right,
that you're going to
that's
do
something
this?
we haven't worked any of that out.
Okay,
so
but then
that would
those-
be the time, I think, to do that.
Okay, and then that will be posted on the website?
Posted
then?
on Indivisible.
Yeah, we'll give you that information, because they have to get the smoke alarms for us. It comes through them, they pay for them. Red Cross, we don't have to pay anything. We're providing the labor. So.
Do you anticipate doing it on weekends, or not necessarily, or you didn't even think that far yet?
What do y'all think?
Just
Doing what? The asking?
No,
the
the
actual
actual
installation, not, you don't have to say.
Those of you that are working, it would be a problem for you to try to. take
Isn't
off.
canvassing most effective like after 5 on weekdays and on weekends? So probably those times, or at least I've talked to people about it. So they also will get out, I'm sure, if it's combined with canvassing.
Now, this is not nothing, this is something that's been done with other organizations. We were just another organization that's done something that's been proven to work well and good PR. So, PR is nice, but really what we're about is providing services to the community and making our community better. So we'd appreciate any participation in that.
So real quick on events, I wrote it up there. GoLeft.org is our collaborative calendar to try to get events for everything on there. So we're going to add the stuff that's on the board to that. What's that? It's new. It's been a work in progress for a while, but it should be ready now to go. And we'll get all the other events up there. So if you go to one place, it'll have the stuff we put on Indivisible Facebook, and also whatever else is in private groups that want to share outside their group for events. We'll have those too. Some events are only contained in certain Facebook groups, but we'll try to get all those on the calendar. So, I think that's it.
All right.
Scott.
When everything else is finished, I just wanted to invite anyone who would like to appear in our first episode on Acadiana Open Channel, which is an introduction to Indivisible Acadiana. What are we about? What have we done so far? What are we planning on doing in the future? And it would just be for you to come up and say, I am Indivisible Acadiana. And then we'll include that as, just feature a few people, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, people just to say this is who we are, and we represent you.
When do we do that?
Right now, I'll set it up right here in the back corner.
Right now.
Before you leave today, we'll block the door.
That's your ticket out.
right.
Just like the museum brings you through the gift shop.
So,
all right, guys, 2 sentences before we leave. I just want to mention that, we are slated to appear at, or to be present at the, resource fair that Acadiana Pride is putting on. Pride is now this month on the 21st, which is Saturday.